Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Coffee with our Congressman featuring Bill Huizenga. I'm Jane Clark, president of the West Coast Chamber, and it's going to be a great morning together. I want to thank all of our advocacy and action mission sponsors. You're going to see their names in the chat feature below. We really want to thank them for our support of today's program. And a special thank you to today's mission lead sponsor, which is Huntington Bank. And I'd like to welcome Mark Wilson, who's our community president of Huntington Bank, to join me for a quick conversation. And Mark, boy, the pandemic has affected all of us, and certainly Huntington and the banking industry. What are some insights you can share?
Well, thank you, Jane. I'm sure we all had a plan when we started 2020. But as the boxer Mike Tyson said before his fight with Evander Holyfield, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I think we all felt like that at the end of the first quarter of this year. But I am, as I always have been, proud of our customers, our community, and colleagues' ability to respond and adapt to challenges. We all learned a lot of new terms, Jane. Paycheck Protection Program, coin shortages, interim final rules, working remotely, and virtual meetings, to name a few. During the second quarter of this year, our businesses and colleagues were hard at work to ensure access to the Paycheck Protection Program. It ensured untold employers and employees had a bridge through the initial phase of shutdown. It's hard to believe that a loan program that did not exist until weeks before it was launched resulted in our team being able to assist tens of thousands of small businesses, and untold numbers of their employees kept their paychecks coming. We also saw people's daily routines and resources change quickly, which resulted in the expansion of our Fair Play Banking Commitment, Jane. We expanded our 24-hour grace period on overdrafts to businesses as well as consumers. We set up a $50 overdraft safe zone so that even small overdrafts that could not be cured within that 24 hours would not result in overdraft fees, which would only have added to the hardships many were experiencing. West Michigan is also one of the most generous communities in the country, and it became clear to us early that many of the organizations that we rely on would not be able to hold their traditional fundraising activities at a time when the needs were growing. We moved quickly and joined with other businesses to redirect many of our planned marketing investments to support nonprofits providing the critical support to our neighbors. We also adapted our partnerships, like the one with the Chamber, to move our live events to virtual and to ensure that we had the opportunities for our businesses, community, and government leaders to remain connected with one another. We also announced our $20 billion community commitment to improve access to affordable housing, home ownership, access to capital for small businesses, and community development. And finally, Jane, our colleagues were impacted. They were asked to leverage our retail banking network by doing more types of things through our drive-through locations that we could have imagined. Colleagues continue to rotate to offices they don't normally work at to ensure that we have enough resources to support the critical access needed. We have much to be thankful for this year, Jane, despite COVID. And I'm grateful for the customers, community, and colleagues that continue to make West Michigan the special place that it is to us all. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for that extraordinary response from Huntington and to support our community, our businesses, and the Chamber. We really appreciate it. So now I'd like to turn the program over to today's guest MC, Michael Hill. And Michael is going to moderate our conversation with Congressman Huizenga. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much, Jane. It's great to be with all of you this morning. And we have a relatively short amount of time with the good Congressman, so I want to jump right in. We're very thankful that Congressman Bill Huizenga is with us again this morning. He's been a long-term friend of the Chamber, and we'd like to congratulate you on being reelected again, and you'll be starting your sixth term next year. So congratulations on that win, Bill, and thank you for being with us this morning. I'll turn it over to you for some opening remarks.
All right, thanks, Mike and Jane and everybody at the Chamber, and glad we could do this. Usually we're fretting about whether I'll actually be back from Washington, D.C., and we had many years where we had planned on trying to figure out how to do this via video. Well, here we are. As Mark had pointed out, that's our new reality with a lot of what's going on. So I know we've got some short time, and I'm going to try to be succinct, but I'm going to just concentrate my opening remarks on sort of the state of play, what the situation is with the presidential election. Today's a big day in Lansing with the electors being appointed. I'm going to respond to my joining the amicus brief for the Texas lawsuit. And maybe I'm certainly open to other questions along that line a little later, but I wanted to make sure that we at least touched on that and then move forward. But it's interesting, as I was reviewing the list of folks on the call, and it was preliminary, but and even some of our sponsors, I heard from people in all of these organizations and in these individuals who said, I can't believe you signed on, and others who said, thank you so much for signing on to this amicus brief. And I think it's just a sign of where we are as a country. We've got media outlets obviously framing this much differently than I would anticipate. The Sentinel's Saturday headline was, Huizenga signs on to undo Michigan election results. I categorically reject that. What this amicus brief was about, and I encourage people to go and read it, was about trying to make sure that we had some unanswered questions explored. In fact, Justice Thomas and Alito both said that they would have moved forward with hearing the case. That's really what this amicus brief signed by over 125 of us in the House of Representatives, including 4 members from Michigan. That's what it really was about. And here's part of the reason why. We have such a divided country right now that some people blame Donald Trump for, others blame others for, but we know this, that a third of all independents, almost 75% of Republicans, and a significant number of Democrats are not convinced that it was a free and fair election. National polling tells you that, the anecdotal calls that we receive and the information that we get. And at some point, we've got to unify the country. And how we do this, in my opinion, is by making sure that people feel heard and understood, and that they really feel like their concerns were explored. That was part of my reason for, and a significant part of my reason for signing on to that amicus brief, was to make sure that that people had and states had their ability to have their concerns be heard. There's lots of calls for unity and how Joe Biden's a unifier and those kinds of things. That he might be, but I can tell you that Kamala Harris does not necessarily have that same reputation. I'm not sure that Joe Biden releasing photos of his dogs chewing on a Donald Trump chew toy is helpful if this is what we're trying to be healing. But at the end of the day, for the good of the country, we've got to have these concerns explored and looked at. And there's hundreds of affidavits that are out there concerned about some of the practices that happen. In fact, some of you may know, my oldest son was working on the John James campaign. He was at TCF Center that next morning and was an accredited poll watcher who was locked out of the process, literally got locked out of there. That doesn't mean necessarily that there was anything nefarious or that Dominion, the voting system was rigged or those kinds of things, but those are questions and issues. And what I have a real concern about is that I believe when Secretary Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State, mailed without legislative approval ballot applications to over 7.5 million people here in Michigan, that was a violation of Michigan law. As I read it, I know there was a lower court in Michigan that said it's okay to do that. I think the Michigan legislature is going to have to explore that. I mean, to me, when that process does not require a signature for that application, that is a potential vulnerability on this. And as I said, there still are these outstanding questions about what happened not only at TCF Center but at other places. So at the end of the day, I believe that Joe Biden is going to be sworn in as President of the United States. Today is the day that the electors are being chosen in Lansing. I believe that Michigan's Michigan's electoral votes will go towards Biden. But in the meantime, and after this, not in the meantime, actually, after this, we still have to look at how we are going to be to be healing this. And again, to wrap it up, I guess in my estimation, making sure that people feel like their concerns have been explored, have been understood, have not been discounted and mocked, and all those things that have been going on. And by the way, there's all kinds of examples of what happened. These same people that are demanding those who voted for Trump to accept the election results, many of them simply did not accept the election results of 2016. And when you have people like Eric Swalwell and others who were out there pushing this Russia hoax that was going on for literally for the full 4 years of the Trump administration, we've got a lot of issues that we need to deal with. So that's at the end of the day. I anticipate that I'm going to be working with the Biden administration. I hope that he's going to reach out, excuse me, and try to work with folks. It's going to be a different day in the House of Representatives, and I think, Mike, we can get to that later on as we've seen majorities narrow for Speaker Pelosi and those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, we've got to have confidence in our electoral system. Part of my doing that today, I'll be going and joining Lisa Lyons. She's the county clerk in Kent County. They're doing spot audits. Justin Roebuck has done that here in Ottawa County. Bob Janetsky has done that in Allegan County. Allegan and Kent, by the way, both use Dominion. Ottawa uses a different system, the HART system. All of those audits, which are done every election, excuse me, revealed that they're accurate. There is an anticipation that they're going to be accurate again today.
Hey,
and
Bill.
Again, that's part of building that confidence.
Thank you for that, Bill. And in preparation for this meeting this morning, we knew this would be a hot topic. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your office is working on putting together another conference call specifically on the elections that folks can choose to attend in the coming days. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we're working on doing a telephone town hall meeting on Wednesday. When I'm anticipated to be back in Washington. They have not given us a specific time. I've got flights held for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So as long as that timing works out, yes, we're going to try and get that out as well.
Perfect. Well then, because we have such limited time together, I want to just shift gears to kind of the here and the now. What's really kind of staring you in the face, I believe, as you get back to Washington is specifically COVID-19 relief. And it looks like there were some developments over the weekend where the packages that have been talked about, a $908 billion package, has been broken into two different pieces. $160 billion, that's the kind of the sticky subject on support for local governments and states, and also liability reform or protections for businesses. Can you talk a little bit about what you think is going to happen in the next week from a COVID relief standpoint?
Yeah, it's fluid. That is for sure. And quite honestly, frustrating. We've had $138 billion in the Paycheck Protection Program parked on the sideline, authorized, but the program had expired. Speaker Pelosi had put out the $3 trillion marker and said she wasn't going to move on that. The Senate had passed a couple of $500 and $600 billion packages. White House had ended up negotiating up to $1.8 billion. That isn't going to happen anymore. It's probably going to be more like in that $900 billion range. And only in this environment is a $1 trillion aid package a quote skinny package. I mean, it's kind of stunning to think about that. But Mike, it's awfully hard to predict because it is so fluid. I mean, there's been anticipated agreements a couple of times over the last few weeks that has not come to fruition. So I'm hoping that is the case. But as you point out, those really are the two biggest sticking points. Speaker Pelosi would argue that state and local government help is a quote bipartisan position, but that liability reform is not. Therefore, Speaker McConnell shouldn't be negotiating on that. I think he absolutely should be. I mean, think about the liability that any school, whether it's a private college like Hope or a public college like Grand Valley, or a school, whether it be a public or a private school, elementary school, doctor's offices, grocery stores, hardware stores, retail shops, restaurants, there is an exposure there that is unacceptable in my estimation. And we've got to figure out how these folks, at a minimum, are getting a safe harbor for a period of time while we are getting this pandemic under better lock and key. So that is going to be a key priority. And frankly, a lot of us are very concerned about handing money over to states that have not been as fiscally responsible as the state of Michigan and may not have the same constitutional constraints like the state of Michigan does with our balanced budget amendment, balanced budget requirement in the state constitution, and saying, okay, Illinois, California, New York, whatever, whoever might be having pension issues or spending problems, here you go, here's your money, no strings attached. That to me doesn't seem like they're a responsible way to handle people's tax dollars either.
Perfect. Do you see any other topics besides COVID relief getting any sort of air over the next remaining days of the lame duck session?
Yeah, we took care of the National Defense Authorization Act that passed even with the president's veto threat over the Section 230, which is the sort of the safe harbor that the tech companies have. It passed both the House and the Senate with veto-proof majorities. I voted for it. So that was one of the big three. The COVID response package, and then government funding. Oh yeah, that funny little thing. We ran out of funding the end of September. There was a continuing resolution that brought us to December 11. Last week, there was a 1-week continuing resolution that I voted for. I didn't vote for the earlier one because I thought we should have stayed in town and battled our way through this. This past week, I was willing to give leadership on all sides a little breathing space to figure out how they were going to move forward. I'm not sure what I would do if we've got another CR unless there is an agreement that's imminent that I could sign on to. But that may end up getting rolled into the COVID response, and you may see another lovely, massive Washington, D.C. Christmas gift that gets plunked down at the feet of the American people. Don't worry, you've got 3 hours to read 7,000 pages. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that drives everybody, including those of us that have to serve there, a little nuts. But so that's going to be the other big thing, is we have to keep government funding going. And if it is an omnibus one vote to basically supplant all of those individual budget votes and appropriations votes, there's going to be some stuff in there that I know I'm not going to like. There's going to be some stuff in there that I know I will like. There's going to be a lot of stuff that we wish we would have all had more time to figure out whether we'd like it or not like it. So that's going to be the other big thing tied into that.
Perfect. Thank you. So just as a time check, we got about 10 minutes left with you. And so maybe a little bit of a lightning round. We had some questions submitted by members ahead of time. So one thing we're looking for your thoughts on is as you mentioned at the outset, that the Democrat majority in the House has gotten smaller or will be smaller in the next Congress. Depending upon what happens in Georgia, the Senate could remain largely the same. And so what's different is the party occupying the White House. Can you talk a little bit about how you anticipate working with the new administration, specifically to solve problems that we're facing here in West Michigan?
Yeah, very good question. I think that's yet to be determined. Again, assuming that this is a Joe Biden administration. Joe Biden was added to the Obama administration really as that conduit into the Senate. He's a creature of the Senate, first elected there. He did not spend much time with the House members, even when the House for the last 6 years of the Obama administration was in the majority. That was very different with Mike Pence, who was a House member before he went to become governor. He, in fact, set up a separate office on the House side of the Capitol and would interact often with us. I'm curious to see if President Biden does that himself, or if a Vice President Harris is the one that's sort of tasked with that. As I had said in my opening, he has more of a reputation of being a deal maker. Senator Harris does not have that same reputation as being someone who is really going to go and build those relationships across the aisle. But it's more than just president, vice president. Who is it that they put in as legislative directors, for example? That is important. Those folks that are going to help drive the legislative agenda, they are responsible for building those relationships. I know in the 6 years that I was there with President Obama, I had 4 different legislative liaisons that were specifically tasked with dealing with my office. I met 2 of them, one of them at the Christmas party one year, and the other one early on came into my office when the Republicans took majority. And that was the only time I ever had any interaction with them. That was not real helpful, I think, all the way around. And I know there's criticism of the Trump administration for tone and tenor and lots of other things, but I can tell you, when I was out there battling for the GLRI, when I was out there battling for transportation dollars, when I was out, for Grand Valley's bus system, when I was out there battling on behalf of business, about whether it be tax reform or whether it be regulatory reform, I had a direct conduit in, and often would even have a chance to talk to the vice president himself or others that were heading up these departments. So it is going to be a very different scenario now.
You mentioned the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, and that was something that you and some of your colleagues from Michigan fought very hard with the Trump administration to get that added back into the budget. Can you look in your crystal ball and see if you, if you anticipate any changes coming to that with the new administration, or anything that you may have to do on behalf of the environment here in the Great Lakes area?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is we had battled that back to a place where the President Trump had made a commitment to not only match it but to increase it, and then we put on a escalation path up to $475 million, which was the first initial number that was the influx when this one started. So the current administration has agreed to that. There is a path forward on that. I would anticipate that would continue. I hope that that's going to continue, and certainly we're going to be fighting for that on a bipartisan basis.
Perfect. So another thing that the incoming president campaigned on was refining and reforming the Affordable Care Act. So not throwing it out, but maybe fixing a few of its flaws potentially, and expanding access by creating a public option. Depending on whose hands the Senate remains in, that may be a tough battle. But can you offer your thoughts on offering a public option alongside the private options in the healthcare exchange?
Yeah, I thought public option was a mistake back when they were originally talking about the ACA. I think it's a mistake now. I'm still not convinced that the ACA as it exists today is even doable. Are there parts of that? And we've talked about this for years. There are very positive parts of that, making sure that people with pre-existing conditions that they're able to maintain their coverage. And this was always a little frustrating, as many of you know now. I had a sister who was battling cancer, who lost that battle a month ago. And I'd be sitting in, whether it was in interviews or whether it was in debates or whatever, and people throwing out, you don't care about people with pre-existing conditions and you just want them thrown off their insurance. It's like, don't be ridiculous. Of course, every single person that I know has been affected in one way, shape, or form by something like that. There are some things that we agree on with that, making sure that that kids have coverage. 26 is a little bit of a question mark why they chose 26, but those types of things we can find real agreement on. Where what what we are going to disagree on, and intensely going to disagree on, is putting those decisions in the hands of government officials versus healthcare officials. And we still have not fixed the VA. It's gotten better, but we still have not fixed it. We still have demonstrated that if we turn the entire healthcare system over to the government, it is going to fail. And it is certainly not going to be the level of care that we currently have. So we have to have that private sector influence on this process for a better product for everybody.
So one of the things that the federal government's had to do, especially in this world of COVID, but even leading up to that, is the government's been spending more money than it brings in. Some are anticipating a push to make some changes to the tax environment, both from a corporate and individual standpoint. Do you have any thoughts on any potential reforms that you might be supportive of with the new administration, working in conjunction with them with regards to taxes?
Well, I'm certainly not interested in raising taxes. It is kind of interesting that Joe Biden, as vice president in the Obama administration, recognized that America had put ourselves at a disadvantage vis-a-vis what was happening internationally on a competitive level with our tax rates. And so the Obama administration and Biden administration advocated for a 25% corporate tax rate. The House Republicans and Senate were down more like in the 20%. We ended up at 22, 23%. That's a negotiation landing spot that I think would have happened whether it was President Obama or President Trump. Now we've got the Biden administration folks coming in and advocating for a pretty massive increase in corporate tax rates. And again, this isn't just for those C corps. It's for all those LLCs and for all of those S corps, those subchapter S corps that have all of that income flow through people's individual tax rates and through individual tax filings. And I think way too many people don't understand what that effect is going to be. And I always use the example of my little sand and gravel operation, which is a subchapter S corp. And I may show a profit booked on my ledger, but I know that I'm saving up to go buy a loader, and that means I'm not pulling all that money out. I'm leaving that money in, yet I'm paying tax on all of that money. I now have instant deductibility when I make that capital investment. That was part of the new tax reform. But if they're talking about shifting some of those things, that could severely impact our competitiveness across not the globe, frankly. And so I'm hoping that it's measured. I'm hoping that there's some common sense that's put into this. I think we are at a good spot right now, and what we really need to do is concentrate on making sure that we keep our spending under control, not just look at how we're going to increase taxes. We need increased revenues through increased activity. That's what's going to help local, state, and federal governments all the way around, is economic activity and people paying income tax and sales tax and those kinds of things.
Fantastic. Well, Congressman Huizenga, as always happens with you, we run out of time and have a lot more that we'd love to talk to you about. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jane and just want to say a big thank you to you on behalf of the membership. Thanks for making time for us this morning.
Hey, I'm glad we could do it.
Thank you, Bill, so much for being with us today. Michael Hill, Coldbrook Insurance, we know we can always count on you to be a great moderator of our legislative programs, so thank you for playing that role today. For our audience members, we will be sending you a survey to ask for your feedback on today's events and other chamber activities. It's so important to us that we respond to your needs. And finally, if you enjoy our advocacy programs, join us again in January 8th. And we're going to have Brian Calley from SBAM talking about some of Michigan's legislative priorities coming in the upcoming year. So thanks everybody for being with us. Warmest wishes for a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you in 2021. Have a great day.